Lord of the Rings are pretty big right now. Because of Amazon's Rings of Power show, people are returning to this amazing Tolkien world. But what about in gaming? What about the latest and biggest of the Lord of the Rings games, Middle-earth: Shadow of War? Is it actually worth it to get into? Is it worth it to get it right now? Or whether you should just enjoy the show, enjoy the movies, and move on? So let's discuss that. And as always, I'm not gonna be wasting your time, and I'm gonna be giving you the answer right away because, yep, your time is precious, and I'm not here to, well, waste it, I guess. And if the straight answer is all that you want to hear, well, you're gonna hear it right now. And thank you just for coming by. And if you want to know more, just stick around till the end of the video. In any ways, thank you. And well, the answer is this: yes, Middle-earth: Shadow of War is actually worth it because, weirdly enough, this is more a sandbox game which you will enjoy a lot because how powerful you can become rather than just amazing Lord of the Rings story. But yeah, let's discuss the details about what this game is. So Middle-earth: Shadow of War is a sequel to Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, and it takes place directly after that game. I'm not gonna be doing a lot of spoilers for the second game, but in the first game, but I'm gonna give you a little spoilers for the first game just to understand where you stand. You're playing as Talion. You are one of the defenders of Gondor who was placed as a guard on a Black Gate of Mordor. The game is happening a few decades before the Fellowship of the Ring and just gives you the story of the rise of Mordor and return of Sauron. And in the first game, you basically die, but you are saved by the Wraith, which is the spirit of Celebrimbor, the original creator of the Rings of Power. You probably have seen the Celebrimbor in a show of Rings of Power, but in this game, he looks much cooler. And well, in the first game, and to be fair, in the second game, your goal is to just defeat Sauron. And again, no spoilers. Story-wise, game is, well, to be fair, nothing amazing. There is no like insane Lord of the Rings story. It's just things that are just happening. The story is rotating around the stopping of Sauron from returning, or rather defeating him, and it just goes around the story of Minas Ithil that will eventually transform in the movies into Minas Morgul. So yeah, that's what entire story is circling around. And again, no spoilers, and until the very end of the game, the story is nothing exceptional, but end of the story is probably one of the most bittersweet endings that you will find in the entire Lord of the Rings story, except for the books, of course, because book has a lot of bittersweet endings. But what about the gameplay? How it actually plays? And the gameplay of this game is especially where it shines because of the one certain thing called Nemesis system. It was in the first game as well, but here it's much more fleshed out. So what is Nemesis system and why it's so good? So game is actually open world. The world of the Mordor, you're playing in Mordor, and the Mordor is divided into a few different territories. And these territories have, well, very distinct hierarchy. And these territories are all controlled by orcs. Well, mostly controlled by orcs. And these orcs have very distinct hierarchies. You have your regular soldiers, you have the captains that control them, you have commanders that control those captains, and you also have warlords that control, well, entirety of the territories. And eventually your goal is to, well, control these territories by the orcs that are controlled by you, because you are in some way in opposition to Sauron. But what's most important, all of these named orcs, starting from captains going to the war chiefs, they are all completely different in every different game. So you will not see the same warlords or war chiefs or commanders or captains in two distinct saves or into two different people, because they are all unique based on, well, what you are experiencing. All those captains and commanders have different, well, personalities, they have different voice lines, they have different weaknesses, different strengths, different levels, and based on what is happening and what you're doing, they might even go into rank up, or they might eventually die. If you will kill them, they can return from the dead and they will remember that you killed them, or if they will run away, they will remember that they ran away from you, or they will remember if you ran away from them. And every single character have, well, very distinct personality towards you. And eventually, when you, well, go through into the game, you will also unlock ability to control them, and they will actually fight by your side. But because they're orcs and they're very treacherous, they might even actually, well, betray you and get back to the enemy side. So you have to be very careful to not trust all of them as well. Each and every region has a large fortress that you need to take control in order to control the region itself. And depending on how many captains and commanders you have on your side, you can either just choose to attack directly, which will not be the best course of action because they have their defenses that are very difficult to penetrate. So instead, you can just choose to weaken the defenses, like for example, killing the bodyguards of the war chief, or for example, like infiltrating your commanders on their side just to, well, to kill them, just to destroy them from inside, or you can sabotage their defenses and things like that. And overall, this game just transforms into the strategy game, which is insanely cool, and paired with an insanely powerful warrior that you are, that can mow down dozens and hundreds of orcs all at once. This game is incredibly fun. Yes, some might say that it is getting repetitive, but because of the Nemesis system, it is very cool nonetheless. And if you think that it's repetitive and easy, try to up the difficulty, because on higher difficulties, the enemies are insanely powerful. And what's really cool, enemies can actually learn your fighting patterns and can become immune from certain attacks. And sometimes they're becoming immune from every attack except for one, and you just have to hit them only with this one attack in order to defeat them. And that's actually a very cool thing to do. Game also has the gear system, which is not insanely deep and insanely cool, but it's there nonetheless. The world around is pretty grim and, well, not very varied, because yeah, it's Mordor we are talking about, but it's still interesting nonetheless. And what's most important that needs to be said is that the game does not have any microtransactions at all, because it did have it in the beginning when the game came out, and it had an intense backlash because you're basically paying money to get better orcs for your army, but now it's not there anymore. And yeah, that's great. But let's now talk about the pricing, how much game will cost you and whether you should actually roll. So game is available on Steam for the base price of $49.99 for tier 1 countries and $29.99 for tier 2 countries, and can go as low as $7.49 for tier 1 countries and $4.49 for tier 2 countries. Mind that this does not include any DLCs, but you can actually get a bundle with this game that includes all the DLCs and even includes the first game as well. And the base version of the game is also available on the Game Pass. So is it worth it for those prices? Well, again, don't buy this game for the full price, because the game is old and it will be on sale most likely very often, but for a discounted price, 1000%. If you love anything about Lord of the Rings, this game will satisfy that itch. Again, it's not a fantastic story, but it's not a bad story, and if you're gonna choose to go till the end, especially till, well, Shadow Wars chapter, which is an epilogue to the game, you're gonna find this game pretty enjoyable. And again, this game is more like a sandbox where you are constantly fighting to take control over Mordor and keep the control, well, out of the hands of Sauron. And because of this, the game is insanely fun. It goes pretty deep into lore of the rings, not maybe as deep as the first game, but still gives you an understanding how powerful the rings actually are in the game, and just fleshes out the Mordor as well. But yes, it's been fleshed out in the Rings of Power show, but it just adds more to it, because the Rings of Power is happening way before the events of the movie. This is happening right before the events of the movie, and this is just beginning a few decades before the movie and ends right before the movie as well, and some events are actually going in parallel with movies as well. So yeah, overall it's an insanely good and insanely fun game to play, with its flaws of course, but it's, yeah, it still needs to be experienced by everyone. Well, this will be for today. Thank you for being here with me. Like the video if you like, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. So yeah.